Hello and welcome to Stretford Paddock. This podcast is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Now more than ever, our online reliance has been rapidly increasing. We stream our favourite shows, we keep in touch with our loved ones, we even watch podcasts like The Brew. And we like to think our information is safe, but as our online footprint increases, so does our need for proper security. Yeah? Surfshark is a VPN service that protects your information by encrypting all the data that you send through the internet, keeping anyone unwanted from seeing it. Another great reason to use a VPN is because content from different streaming services don't want you to watch everything in every different country. It's a disgrace. There's certain shows for America, certain shows for Canada, certain shows for Mexico, Venezuela, UK, Netherlands. How about you have access to all of them and get access to everything, whether that's Netflix, Amazon Prime, or even football highlights on Twitter. And with Surfshark, you can solve that problem by simply changing your location. Also, if you do go on abroad on holiday and you're in Tenerife and you're in Faliraki, you still want to watch BBC iPlayer, don't you? You still want to watch Premier League football. Change your location back to the UK while you're gone to get access to all of your home comforts. And currently, Surfshark are bringing you genuinely one of the most ridiculously good deals I've ever heard. Use the link in the description and use code Paddock, as you can see on the screen there, code Paddock. You will get, wait for this, 85% off, which means for something like a couple of quid a month, you can be fully protected. Plus, you get 3 months for free, and Surfshark also offers a 30-day money-back guarantee. So use the link in the description, promo code Paddock, as you can see there, for, again, let me just listen to this, 85% off, 3 months for free, and a 30-day money-back guarantee.
Jay here of Stretford Paddock. This is the Paddock Podcast, and joining me is my good friend and colleague, Mr. Joe Smith.
Yes.
Joe.
Yeah.
United fans, historically, we're not exactly ardent England fans, are we? We're not. Like, I'm thinking your dartboards with your David Beckham's face on it, your effigies of David Beckham, your death threats to Phil Neville, your vandalising Cristiano Ronaldo's home, although some people may not be bothered about that anymore. That sort of stuff. You know what I mean? Like Marcus Rashford getting abuse. It's always been a bit like United versus England almost.
Right.
But England players do play for United and vice versa, obviously. And a lot of us are English. And you do want your national team to win a World Cup. It would be nice, it'd be nice, wouldn't it? So it is a bit satisfying when you see England do well and the United players within the England team doing well.
Well, I think that's the
from our
crucial
point
thing,
of view,
isn't
anyway.
it? That's the key thing in it, that England players are, United players are doing well for England, and that game today was a good example of that.
Because in case you don't know, England beat Iran in the World Cup opener for England, obviously 6-2. Yep. Harry Maguire got an assist. Yep. Luke Shaw, I think, got an assist. Marcus Rashford came on and got a goal. Yep. So it was a good set of performances by all the United trio, who've all had a lot of stick over the last sort of 2 years or 12 months, whatever it is, since Euros. Marcus Rashford got untold stick for missing that penalty against Italy in the Euros final. Harry Maguire has probably been the most criticised England player and possibly United player over the last 12 months. Luke Shaw, many people just sort of, were giving up on him. It looked like he wasn't even going to get in the United team at one point. Malacia had come in, we beat Liverpool, everyone thought, well, that's that then. Malacia's going to be our new left-back. But they've all got themselves back in the England squad. 2 of them starting, the one coming on as sub, all done very well today.
Yeah, really well. I thought Maguire and Shaw in particular were really good. Shaw in the final third, Maguire just looked good everywhere. There was one point where, he went off with a concussion by the look of it. It was that kind of like finger in front of the face
Touch
situation.
your nose.
Touch your nose. And just before that, he'd let his man run past him in the box. And I don't know how much that affected him. That's something he does occasionally when he's not on it, when he's not concussed. But maybe we can give him a bit of leeway for that, because there was no replay, which was odd. It seemed as though there was no obvious moment where he became concussed, and the BBC footage that we were watching didn't show an obvious moment or a replay of how that happened. All we saw is he's going off. So I don't know what happened there, and hopefully he can be back for Friday's game. But I thought he looked really good, and I thought he just had that kind of front foot, energetic performance about him that he has when he's at his best. And I thought that, I know it's only Iran, but there's a difference between playing a sort of a relative minnow in a qualification or a friendly and playing him at a World Cup, because we know as England fans, or as I'm sure most fans of many nations at the World Cup will know, that just because a game looks easy on paper doesn't mean England win it.
No.
So this could easily have been a sort of a 1-1 or a tricky game from the past that we've seen as fans, or people that prefer England to win, even if you won't call yourself an England fan. And yet they made it look comfortable, and I thought Shaw was excellent. Rashford came on and scored with what his first, second and third touches were, bringing the ball down, doing a little Ronaldo chop and putting the ball in the back of the net. It's from exactly what you want to see from United players.
Because that's usually not his favoured side. No. He ended up on the right-hand side. And like you say, cut in and finishes with his left, which is quite rare for Marcus Rashford. Looks like he's full of confidence. Yeah. And me and you were just talking before we went live then, and you were saying that he's got that ability. Yeah. Marcus Rashford's ceiling is almost non-existent. He's skill-wise and ability-wise, there's no question about that. It's just been things like at times his finishing and his form has deserted him. But if you can get Marcus playing as well as he can play, then he could be a real sort of asset to Gareth Southgate in this World Cup.
Especially if, I know, did Sterling score today? I think he did. He
scored.
I know Sterling scored, but I thought, he looked quite quiet. Saka I thought looked really lively and excellent. But I think you could make the argument of taking Sterling off for Rashford in the next game if you were that way inclined. But I just think that he, like you said, or like we were chatting about before, he's got a certain quality about him that most players don't have. Where from watching him as a United fan, the games against Chelsea, against City, against PSG multiple times, in big games, he is capable of winning you a game, of just destroying an opposition. Against Arsenal this season, you saw it where you're like, in certain moments, if you can sort of orchestrate the right situations, he's almost unstoppable. And I don't think that about Raheem Sterling. I think Sterling's great at popping up in the right areas, and I think he's made a great career for England, and he's obviously done very well for City as well. But he feels like if the ball falls to him in the 89th minute of a semi-final for England, I feel more likely that he'll miss it, or that you don't feel confident. Whereas Rashford, you can give him the ball 30 yards out and he can do what he did today against any defence. I know it was against Iran today, which is obviously not the highest level of opposition, but we've seen him do that against everyone. Against Liverpool, against Chelsea, against City, against Arsenal. Like, he can do that against anyone. I think he's a great player to have in the squad because we don't have many of those players that are ruthless and are brilliant in big games. I think Rashford's one of the few that England have got.
It's a lot of nerve settling today, isn't it? Yeah. It's just that thing of getting that win under your belt, because it could have been a bit of a banana skin.
Yeah.
But also for these lads who've had a bit of stick, some people questioning whether Marcus should even be in the squad. Others certainly questioning whether Maguire should be starting. Yeah. Luke Shaw, I don't think he's had as much criticism because Chilwell got that injury. I think that sort of ended that little bit of a debate, didn't it? It was like, well, it was going to be one of them two. And Chilwell's not always played for Chelsea before the injury this season anyway. And I think Luke Shaw probably had enough in the bank from what he did at the Euros and also when he's come back into the United team this season. But there's question marks about him. And obviously just settling some nerves as well and getting that win, getting a decent performance and a result under your belt. Obviously, the next game's going to be tougher. You said there about maybe Southgate's going to swap it around. I'll be honest, I don't think he will. No. Attack-wise, I think Marcus is going to stay on the bench, but certainly he's going to be an option. But I certainly don't see Maguire or Shaw getting dropped.
He's always been on the bench for England, though, Rashford.
No, he has, you're right.
He's never been like a starting player in a tournament, ever.
No.
Was he 24 years old? And he's
25, yeah.
25, and just turned 25, innit? And he's been a United first-team regular since he was 18, so that's 7 years, which is what? To like 4
Well, if you look at it, there's been almost like mitigating circumstances for everyone. 2016, Hodgson, I think, gave him 4 minutes against Iceland and everyone was going mad because he was on fire. He'd burst on the scene, he'd scored all these goals. And if you watch the Iceland game where we're chasing the game, Rashford comes on and Rashford looks lively straight away. Yeah. But he's like, give him 4 minutes, why? Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. 2018, going into that World Cup, there was a big debate on whether it should have been Raheem Sterling or Marcus Rashford. Yeah. Most people thought it should have been Rashford starting because Raheem Sterling, I think, had gone like a year without a goal for England. Yeah. And Rashford scored, I think, was it against Costa Rica or whatever?
Yeah, one of the friendlies just full.
Yeah, and he looked like he was in good bit of form. Southgate went with Sterling. Rashford got a chance in the dead rubber in the group. Didn't really do much, but came on against Colombia and scored his penalty. Yeah. So, considering you can't argue with that. Obviously, we know what happened in the Euros. Wasn't fit. Probably shouldn't have gone. Was waiting for this operation, and then the rest is history. And then now you've got this tournament. So he's been a little bit unlucky. I mean, the main reason he's not started is because Raheem Sterling's in front of him, And Southgate, in particular, has preferred Sterling for the 2018 World Cup and for the Euros, and now for this World Cup as well. But if Rashford keeps doing what he's doing, I mean, you know, you could, if England gets through to late stages, it could be an injury, or you could look at it and Gareth Southgate could go, you know what, for this game, I think Rashford's the one I need to start. So he's just got to keep doing what he's doing. I mean, the main thing, and I think this will go for everyone who's a United fan and England fan, is you just want him to get a bit of confidence, not pick up any injuries, and come back,
the big one.
you know, with the tails up. Because the sort of weird thing was, we were talking about in the watch along we did, Luke Shaw couldn't have had a better tournament for England.
No.
Like, Harry Maguire couldn't. No. They both had amazing tournaments. Harry Maguire was in the team of the tournament. He was starting a match against Germany. He scored his penalty, and, you know, scored a penalty, but he scored his penalty in the final. It's probably the best penalty. He absolutely smashed it into the camera. Came back and was abysmal for Manchester United. Truly awful. Luke Shaw scored in the final, was being, you know, Shawberto Carlos, and was, you know, the nation's sweetheart almost, and was genuinely terrible as well. Marcus Rashford, who, okay, didn't have a great tournament, did get some stick, had his operation, came back, scored a few goals in the first month, and then fell off a cliff form-wise. And it was like, what is going on with these guys? They've all been mint for England, or, you know, two of them have. The other one, we know what he's capable of. Yet the form just deserted him. It was really weird. And then now, whether you put it down to Ten Hag, whether you put it down to Ralph Rangnick not being around, whether you put it down to just, you know, getting fully fit, whatever, they've all been playing well for Manchester United. I know Maguire's had a bit of stick, and he's had to sort of adapt to being, you know, third or fourth choice. Yeah. But they've, you know, especially Shaw and Rashford recently been playing very well. Now they're playing well for England. You just want to see them come back from the World Cup and carry that on. And hopefully, because this tournament is in the middle of a season, it'll be easier for them to do that.
I think it will. I think that is massive, that tournament being in the middle of the season thing, because it means that they've not had to have this, like, sort of rebuild camp. Like, off the time, they start in the middle of June, don't they, and end in the middle of July. That's the usual run. So for most players, if you're not playing the Champions League or Europa League final, your season ends at the middle to end of May, and then you've basically got a month of fitness training, a bit of a rest, a bit of a holiday, then you're off to the World Cup, and you've got to kind of pick your fitness back up again because it's dipped after the end of the season. Whereas this, they're all going into it flying. There's no need for that dip or, you know, rebuild training. There's no need for a pre-season. It's literally just keep going as you were, like the regular season continued. So hopefully once they come back, there again won't be this like weird dip of like, do we have a rest now or do we like rebuild for pre-season? They haven't missed a pre-season. They haven't got this weird sort of rest and regain to sort of figure out. They're just going straight through to the end of the season. You can have a full rest throughout the summer because there's no tournaments. I think hopefully players should be able to hit the ground running once to come back from the tournament. Before we carry on, this show is also sponsored by Manscaped. And Manscaped are, well, what are they, Jay? They're the best below the waist grooming I've ever experienced.
Easily they are. And we know, listen, the holiday season, or this holiday season, I'll be giving thanks to our friends over at Manscaped Trademarks and the return of football's biggest stage. My pride for doing my squad and my country have never been stronger since Manscaped upgraded my grooming game with the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. Yeah. So you can avoid a Marouane Fellaini bush in your midfield, yeah?
Yeah.
And clean up your midsection with Manscaped.
Yes.
Proud sponsors of the Paddock podcast. Join over 7 million men worldwide. 7 million, which I think feels like that's all the men in the world.
That's most of the men,
who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer by going to manscaped.com and using the code DEVILS28 for free shipping and 20% off. Because we've all been there, haven't we? Yeah. With, you know, when you're trying to shave your nether regions, you've got no lights, you're having to use a candle. Do you know what I mean? You've got no electric, so you're having to use a Stanley knife.
An electron microscope to get sort of a 3D black and white gradient picture of your own genitals. Exactly. I don't want that.
No, and thankfully, with Manscaped, you don't have to have any of that because you've got the Performance Package 4.0. So you've got the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer. You've got the Weed Whacker ear, nose, hair trimmer, right? Men of my age need a bit of that. You've got the Crop Preserver Ball deodorant. You've got the Crop Reviver toner. You've got the Performance Boxer Briefs with the anti-chafing technology.
Everything you could ever possibly need.
You've got a travel bag to hold your goodies that look after your ghoulies. Yeah. You've got all that, and it says here, their Lawnmower 4.0, right? And I'm going to take offence to this, is the Virgil van Dijk of dong defence this tournament.
What, not trying as hard as it used to because he's trying to not get injured before the World Cup?
No.
How about we have the Rio Ferdinand?
Yeah, this is the Rio or the Yap Stam.
Yeah.
Of this tournament.
So get 20% off and free shipping with the code DEVILS20 at manscaped.com. That is 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com using the code DEVILS20. Be thankful for the best gift of all from Manscaped. Hit the target and make sure your D is up to scratch this football-filled holiday season. Your balls will thank you.
They will indeed. Big thank you to Manscaped as well for sponsoring this podcast, even this podcast and this podcast. We've got, what is it now for England? 3 days, is it? 4 days?
Yeah, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we play on Friday. So
in some ways, this is what worries me a little bit now. Because you've got this bit of a gap, and you've got all this euphoria, big win, everyone's happy, everyone's buzzing, all's rosy, and it's like, that's sometimes where you can get a little bit complacent, where you can think, oh, you know, we've cracked it and all the rest of it. Because it wasn't perfect, was it? No. 6-2 win is good. But you mentioned there the little issue there where the kid nipped him behind Harry Maguire.
Yeah.
Now, was he concussed then at that time?
I'm blaming the concussion for that.
I don't know. You're blaming the concussion. Okay. Difficult to argue too much. Marcus was lively, took his goal well. Mm-hmm. Maybe there's a couple of sort of moments where he had a lot of the ball, didn't he, when he came on, Marcus, where he could have played someone in, but you could see he was going for a goal, which I'm not going to be too harsh on him about. But my point is that you just want to see these players keeping their heads down, getting on with it, and then when the next game comes up, it's against USA, the next one on Friday, that we take what we've seen today into that game. There's no sort of, we're on the way, you know what I mean? We can take our foot off the pedal, because this England team can come unstuck when it does that, can't it? I mean, you saw it in the Euro, the what was it called? I forgot what it's called already.
Nations League.
Nations League. Thank you. I know where it's going with Euro. The Nations League was a bit of a disaster, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that was, or an element of it was, just turn up and win, or, you know, it doesn't really matter sort of thing. Yeah, and I think you've got to get that out of your head.
The thing you've got to say about this England team, and we've never been able to say this before, certainly not since 1960, or, well, it would take to 1966 where you can look back and say we've done well on consistent tournaments, is they tend to do well in big games. They tend to turn it on a little bit in big games. I know that we've not beaten that many top teams. Germany's probably the biggest team we've beaten, but, you know, getting to a semi-final and a final back-to-back, that's not easy to do that.
No.
And I think that, you know, at some point we put too much emphasis on the Nations League, and people want to hate Gareth Southgate, and I've said this a few times, and he's not playing the sort of football that I would want to watch week in, week out for Man United by any means. He was linked with the United job. He's the last man I would want to manage Man United, because his football is shit, and I don't think he's that good a manager. But you can't argue that he's been very good for England. He has been. He's been, or is it now he's got the most wins in Championship games for England of any manager, obviously Euros and the World Cup. He's got to back-to-back semi-finals, and one of them being a final. I don't think any manager's done that since Alf Ramsey. What did he get to the semi-final in 70? Or
no, in
62, sorry.
No. He got to I think it was the World Cup, obviously won the World Cup in 66. I think, and by all means getting wrong, I think we got to the Euros semis in 68.
Sorry, excuse me.
I think, but it was like, I think in those days, there was only like 8 teams in it.
Yeah.
And if you won one game, you're in the semis.
Yeah, it's basically like the Six Nations in rugby.
Yeah.
But so either way, you can either say he's the most successful in terms of consistency or second most. He obviously didn't win it, so let's say second most. But we all know as England fans that you don't get to say that very often, but this team is one that is good in tournaments. It is a good tournament team. And I think that's going to be a good thing for these United players.
Do you know what as well? Like, as an England manager, you get second guessed constantly.
Yeah.
Everyone's got an opinion. You've got like 100 sort of different, well, let's face facts. You've got fans of about 10 different clubs who all think their man should be in it. Because there's only about 10 clubs in there where really have got England players who you think should be in there. So you're getting all these different fans. You get pundits got an opinion. All ex-players have got an opinion. Everyone's got an opinion on the England squad and who should be in and who shouldn't. You've got this balancing act of, okay, who's playing well for the club, who's in form, who's done well for me in the past, who's someone I can rely on even if the club form isn't great. And I think Gareth Southgate at times has got that balance kind of just spot on. Because, we were talking before and it's like people going, well, why is Harry Maguire in the team? I've been saying this for the last few months. Harry Maguire's in that team, right? And I expected him to start in the World Cup no matter what happened at United. Because he's one of Gareth Southgate's key players. He's someone who's been in Gareth Southgate's team since Gareth Southgate came in, and he's done well for him in tournaments. He's got to a final and a semi, and he's been in everything. He's played every game he missed the first couple in the Euros, but then he came in and was good enough to get the team in the tournament. So he's one of the guys he turns to. John Stones is one of the guys he turns to. Mason Mount is someone he turns to. You could argue, for whatever reason. Raheem Sterling definitely is.
Yeah.
Jordan Pickford definitely is. He has those players.
Does it remind you of Solskjaer a little bit? Not in terms of the man, obviously, or the caliber of player, but that he's got this record of nearlies, consistent nearlies, like Solskjaer did. Finished third, got to some semi-finals, finished second, got to a final, and then the expectation is to win something, and now he's almost sticking to his dogs, which happen to be Shaw, Maguire, Stones, Sterling, a couple of those who were similar to Solskjaer's, and it seems to not be quite where it was before.
He has evolved a little bit, I think, because you look at that 2018 team.
Yeah.
A lot of those players, you'd have thought Jesse Lingard, for example, Dele Alli, they're young enough to be back in particular. They're back in this team, and but both of them, the form's fallen off a cliff, hasn't it? Really, they're just no longer remotely in the conversation to be an England squad. So he has made decisions where he's gone, right, you'll do for me for now, and then further down the line he's gone, this. And I think Lingard did well for him at the under-21s as well. Yeah. I think Lingard actually scored, was it the goal against Ukraine or whatever it was, where that more or less kept Southgate in a job for the under-21s. So he's obviously got an affiliation with him. But he's been, willing to get rid of some players and bring in others, bring in some of the younger lot, where you look at the likes of, say, I know he didn't start today, but Phil Foden, Bukayo Saka, obviously, has become now a mainstay. I think he's elevated to that point of, I fully expected Saka to start. And in many ways, I think maybe it's a positive thing. You can almost pick the England team now. You almost know what it's going to be. Because today, I think everyone was expecting that team to start. Maybe when it's a tougher calibre of opposition, he'll sacrifice someone like a Mason Mount for a more defensive-minded midfielder, perhaps. But it's you almost feel like you can predict Southgate's team. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. Not when you're getting results like today anyway.
Can we, before we'll get to Wally the week in a minute,
go on. Sorry, we've
got some comments in a second, but I just want to bring this up about, obviously, Man United. This is from last night in the Telegraph from James Ducker. Manchester United sponsor under pressure to pull the plug on £235 million deal. TeamViewer has already told Man United that they want to revise their £47 million a year agreement after backlash from investors. Have you seen much about this?
Yeah, I had it in my news this morning, and I think Maka had it for his. He mentioned it on Gazetta, I think so. But I certainly had it this morning. Yeah, I think there's why you say one of the investors in TeamViewer have gone through the books and gone, why are we spending 275 million quid or whatever on this?
Can I give you a quote?
Basically, waste of money. Yeah, please do.
So they said the German technology company has already told United they want to revise their £47 million a year agreement after backlash from investors who have described the deal as a sign of hubris and appalling judgment. That's like some biblical level upset, that in it, when you start putting hubris and stuff in there.
That's not just like we don't want to work with you anymore. That's like your missus finishing with you and just going, you smell funny, you're ugly, you shit in bed, you
family hate
you proper bore me.
Yeah,
you're just a complete dickhead,
complete twat.
Yeah, that is a proper stick the knife in, isn't it?
Yeah, they've said that they're going to review their long-term marketing strategy in light of the current macroeconomic environment. In addition, the company has already communicated its desire to explore opportunities to amend the existing contract. Literally coming out trying to give us less money because they fucked up, basically.
Yeah, it does sound. It sounds a bit like, you remember when Arsenal signed that Nicolas Pepe?
Yeah, and
they were like, well, how's this happened? Have we done it? We need to review our entire transfer strategy. And unfortunately, they did and seems to improve it. It does feel a bit like that. But, I mean, I don't know what in this contract. I don't know if it's ironclad. I don't know if there is a loophole in there where they can go, actually, if you look at this, you promised us this and you haven't delivered or whatever. But it does feel like this is going to be difficult for them to get out of. But the one, if we were to say what's the best possible outcome of this, it's that it's an indication that the Glazers can't make as much money out of United as they used to be able to. Yeah. And that possibly, and I use the word possibly in capitals, could make them think about selling a bit more.
Yeah.
So I think with things like sponsorship and money that's not coming in as much as it used to, stuff like that, when you couple that with the outrage, the protests, everything else that goes on, you just want to create this sort of environment, don't you, where the Glazers are looking that maybe if we did sell to someone, we would make more money. And I think when you look at the fact that Scousers are up for sale for big money, Chelsea went for big money, there might be a situation where the Glazers go, actually, if we sell now, we will make more money than if we kept hold of United and tried to bleed it dry for the next 10 years or whatever, which is basically what they've been doing since 2005.
Yeah, interesting. One to keep an eye on that, because obviously if United lose some money on their sponsorship, then we may have to sort of look at other things in terms of transfers and all that. Who's your Wally of the week?
My Wally of the week today... do you know what, right? I know there's a lot of euphoria and happiness and goodwill towards the England team. I'm not necessarily blaming them, but I think there is a little bit of culpability there from some of them, especially Harry Kane. I just think the FA with this whole rainbow.
Yeah, mine's
thing,
the same, by the way.
I think it's a tapping, isn't it? Like, I felt it was quite performative anyway when they announced it. I thought, well, we got to play in the World Cup. We don't agree with Qatar's, views on the LGBTQ community, but we're going to wear this armband. I thought that's almost nothing. It's almost meaningless. Yeah, that's like that's the bare minimum, almost the minimum you can do. Yeah. And they've actually gone, no, it's not. This is the minimum we can do. We're not even going to do that because FIFA have told us if we do, we're going to get a booking. And listen, I'm not saying anyone should, want to get a booking in a World Cup, and especially if it puts one of your positions in future rounds at jeopardy. But I think they could have took that on the chin. Honestly,
the thing I don't understand with that is
take the fucking booking.
If it is as simple as you get booked for wearing it, take the booking.
Yeah,
obviously. And also this whole thing of like, well, we're quite happy to sort of, maybe they wouldn't call it a protest. I'm sure the FA wouldn't call it that, but either protest or make our feelings heard on this thing, as long as it doesn't inconvenience us at all.
Yeah, just waste a bit of a sub on it if you need to.
Yeah,
like just say, all right, tell you what, someone's going to wear the armband, take a booking and get subbed.
Yeah, and also the thing I don't get is like, let's say for instance, you can get booked for taking your shirt off in a game, can't you? But then if you refuse to put it back on, do you still just get left with one booking? Because like, how can you get booked for wearing an armband, but then still wear it? Like, surely with just one booking, but you get to keep it on. Like, I don't understand how that could work either. What's the booking for? Showing up in it, or is the booking for wearing it once? But then surely you can't keep wearing something that is an offensive. Like, it's deemed to be a footballing offence.
It is nonsensical.
Like, if you wear an earring, you get forced to take it out.
Look at Marcus's arms there. He could have anything tattooed on his arms.
Yeah.
Are they going to make him cover him up? No. Like, you can have tattoos on your arms. He could have had, I'm not saying he should have done it. It's not blaming him. But, like, he could have had the rainbow flag on his arm as a tattoo. They're going to cut his arm off. Yeah. No. It's just nonsense. And I think it's a bit spineless that the FA have made all this song and dance. You've had all these interviews going, Harry Kane saying, I'm going to wear this armband, and, we stand up for, we're all about inclusivity and diversity. Yeah. And we don't, whilst we respect the beliefs of this country, host nation, we don't believe that the LGBTQ community, should be being treated like this. So we're going to take a stand. And if FIFA go, if you do, you can get a button and go, we'll not do them.
Yeah. I love that. We're, we're all for the LGBT community, as long as it doesn't inconvenience us at all.
Give me this nonsense about, well, sport and politics shouldn't mix. Politics got nothing to do with it. Politics is the reason it's in Qatar. Politics got reasons to do with everything. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Don't tell me that sport and politics shouldn't or don't mix. They mix constantly. Yeah. They've always mixed. Yeah. Do you know what I mean? Do you think Muhammad Ali wasn't a political figure? Yeah. Come on, he's the greatest sportsman ever, in my opinion, not just because of what he did on the football pitch. Eric Cantona's taking a stand. Did anyone moan about that? When he said, I'm not going. He shouldn't be there. It's a load of nonsense. No, we were all like, yeah, fair play to you. People digging out Gary Neville for taking Bean's money and not saying anything about it. So, come on, man, you can't have it both ways. And I just feel like there's an opportunity here for the FA to really sort of take an actual stand. Because if you protest anything, right, the whole thing about a protest is it causes some level of sacrifice and inconvenience. That is what a protest is. Yeah. Either to yourself or the people you protested against, or both. Yeah. It's like when you go on strike. It's, you might be losing money, or someone might be losing a service.
You might get sacked.
You might get sacked. There's always an element of sacrifice, risk, and inconvenience. If you do something that doesn't have any inconvenience to anyone, that's not a protest. No. If you're saying, well, actually, I'm going to protest against this World Cup or against the treatment of these people.
As long as that's all right with you.
Yeah, as long as you don't mind and I do it in a way that suits you. Is that okay? That's not a protest. That is literally nothing.
No.
So, fair enough if you don't want to protest. If you're going to go, look, whilst we don't agree with it, we're in their country, we're playing in this World Cup, we're not going to make any stand, we're not going to say anything or do anything about it. We're just, sort of play begrudgingly or whatever, fine. But don't come out of all this big song and dance and then go, actually, no, we're not going to do it because we might get in trouble.
Yeah, someone might tell us off for it.
Yeah,
well, yeah, exactly. Don't pretend that you're there to make a stand and to make a point when you're clearly not.
No,
so
I agree.
Ridiculous.
And just one final thing. I'm not blaming all the England players for not, coming out and doing loads of different things. I just think if you are going to make a statement like Harry Kane did and the FA did, then stand by it.
Yeah, definitely. Right, good stuff there, Jay. If you haven't checked it out already, make sure you check out our first ever live show. All of us in person in Dublin on the 30th of December. We will be there, me, Jay, Stephen Howson and Adam McCullough with special guest Brian McClare, all there to do a live podcast, like I said, on the 30th of December. The tickets for that are in the comments. Make sure you check that out if you want to come along. Great for Christmas presents as well. If you live in Ireland, if you know someone that lives in Ireland, come down and check us out. We'll be meeting people, chatting, having a great laugh as well, hearing great stories from the Fergie days and all sorts from Brian McClare as well. I'm sure plenty more from Steve and Adam as well. So make sure you check that out if you haven't already.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Joe, always a pleasure. Where can people find you?
Sloppy Joe's podcast on YouTube. New episode coming out tomorrow morning, so click subscribe. We're nearly at 5,000 subscribers, so see if you can get us over the line tonight.
Yeah, go and click subscribe. Big thanks to our sponsors as well. Make sure you check out them. There's links in the description as well. That's been Joe Smith. I've been Jay Motti. This has been the Paddock Podcast. Thanks for watching.